Hey, happy holidays and welcome to another episode of Drawing Science. Today we are drawing polar bears. Let's get started. This is how we're going to start. We're going to do a circle for the head. It's kind of an oval, I should say, more of an oval than a circle. We're going to go right into the neck, just two lines straight down. They don't go all the way over. And then a large egg shape, kind of a big oval. This episode, by the way, dedicated to my buddy Fletcher. If you're watching, this one's for you. Also, my uncle Ike, who is quite fond of bears. All right, so now we're doing his leg. This is just going to be a little curve off of the left side, or you can do the right side if you want. And when I bring it around, it's almost like a little triangle that comes down, and I put that other line going across. That's kind of where his toes are going to be. I'm also making some slight marks to show his back because he's kind of facing us straight on, but you can see his right side a little bit. All right, now to do his left paw, we're going to do kind of a curve line down just like this, and curve from the other side for his left paw, and then right back up again. Now, just a little bit of information about polar bears. Polar bears are mammals. They are actually the only bear that is considered a marine mammal, living up in the Arctic area. These guys like to hang out on the ice sheets, things like that. They like to eat seals. Here you see we're adding the ears up on the top. One of the things that surprised me about drawing polar bears when I looked at the references is how far apart their ears are and how small their ears are. But that's actually something that they want because they're up there in that cold Arctic air. And so having small ears can be an advantage. Think about how cold your ears get if you live someplace that gets cold. They stick out, they get cold. So here we've got a little circle for his muzzle with his nose in the middle, and then some little lines for the mouth, and two little dots for the eyes, very small eyes on these polar bears. Now the polar bear is white. However, it just looks white, really. Their skin is actually black underneath, and their fur, which is in two layers, is clear and little hollow tubes. And so the reason they appear white to us has to do with the way that the light is reflecting off of those hollow hairs. Kind of cool. And sometimes in zoos, because they're in the warmer weather, they'll have algae that grows in there and they'll look like they're a little bit green. But normally up in their native habitat, they'll sometimes take on a little bit of a yellowish appearance. All right, so we're working on the ink lines now on this bear, and this is really going to help to give it its polar bear look. And when I do the lines for the outside, I'm adding little jagged marks, and this is just going to help to give it that fur feel. If we just did straight lines, it just wouldn't be as convincing. And I'm also going to even indicate in certain spots where the fur is. See what I did right there? Just little indications of the fur. Now, polar bears, like I said, they're marine mammals. They will swim in that cold water, and there are records of them swimming for days, literally days in that freezing cold water. And that is because they have about 4 inches of fat that keeps them nice and insulated. In fact, if the temperatures go above like 50 degrees or so, they'll start to overheat. So they like it cold. That's where they like to be. Here you can see how I'm demonstrating. This is what I mean. You want to do the one on the left where you kind of go down like a little Christmas tree pattern. And that'll give it that fur look. So keep in mind the directionality of the fur when you're trying to indicate fur through lines, or when you're doing coloring as well. You want to go with the fur. Add those toes in. They have huge feet. These are one of the largest bears out there. They're very big. They are also one of the most carnivorous bears, and that's because they're hanging out up in the Arctic and they're eating mostly seals. So they're opportunistic. They'll eat other things. And one of the problems that polar bears are having these days is that in certain parts of their range, the ice is melting quicker. Their feeding season is not lasting as long. And so you've got some really hungry polar bears, which is quite sad. And that's also going to potentially put them in conflict with humans because they're looking for food, and they may be looking for alternative food sources, which may be human trash or just humans, actually. So, so you hear a lot about polar bears these days. And the good news is that the population of polar bears around the world is mostly stable. The bad news is that can be misleading, because the reality is that scientists believe that with the shrinking Arctic ice caps and things like that from climate change, that the polar bear population, even though it's been stabilizing since the 50s or 60s when hunting was mostly outlawed, um, they're probably going to take a huge hit, because they're losing their food source. They're not even able to get enough fat stores so that they can survive through different times of the year when they don't have access to their food. And that's pretty sad. So yeah, so we got to protect those polar bears. So I'll just add some claws here. All right, so we're just going to do some wrap up finishing touches on this polar bear with the ink level or ink lines. Again, if you're using a pencil and paper, those blue lines are going to be like a light pencil, and then the black lines are going to be probably darker pencil or maybe pen or something like that, depending on what you are using. So I'm just going to erase these away so that you can see more of just the permanent lines that are on there. And also, I'm noticing something too. If you look at the polar bear on the left, its mouth looks different than the polar bear on the right. Now this is okay. They're both fine, but I kind of like that lower mouth. So it's always a good idea to, before you really put in the ink or something like that, give it a good thorough looking over, see if you want to make any changes. I'm actually going to erase away the little muzzle here, the bottom part of the muzzle and the mouth, and I'm just going to drop it down just a little bit, and I mean just a tiny bit, but you're going to see it makes a pretty big difference in the look of this bear. There we go. Yeah. All right, guys. Well, happy holidays if you're watching this around the time I am putting this up on YouTube. It's close to Christmas. And if you did enjoy the video, please give it a thumbs up. And hey, consider subscribing to my channel if you'd like to see more videos like this. Also, leave a comment if you want to see me coloring the bear. I can do a separate video on that. I did color the bear on the right, but I didn't include it in this because I wanted to keep it a little bit shorter. All right, guys. Well, again, thank you for watching, and I will see you next time. Bye-bye.